just has to sort of evolve over time. But I guess if you're looking to play with people, open jams is a good way. Like when I moved to Baltimore, I didn't know anybody.
Well, that's the next question.
I would just go, okay.
Let's get back to that, because that's like the next question for people. But, Rick, what about you remember your first band?
Yeah, and I was not...
did you join it or did you start it?
What happened was my second guitar teacher. I had done a few years with him, then I started teaching. Down the road, we bumped into each other. And at that time, and it's going to go over good, he had a country western band going. And
we all have things we're ashamed of.
I went over and saw him and sat in with him, and he ended up hiring me. He wanted me to do the lead vocals and lead guitar in the band. So I started working for him. He did everything. And I was 14 at the time, and I'm guessing he was probably, well, everybody else in the band was 25 to 30 years old.
Wow.
And they had done, worked a lot of taverns and bars. I remember I had to get a paper signed by my parents.
Entertainment license, they called them in Delaware.
Because I could not go, it was strange, I could not walk through the serving area. There was a place called the Country Western Lounge. When I came on, it was through the back, up on the stage. I wasn't supposed to have contact. I wasn't supposed to have contact with the filth that was out there drinking in the place, you know. Yep. And that was my first band. And in fact, after I did that for about 6 months with him, he ran a school on the side, and then I started working for him like a second teaching job. I guess we stayed together a year and a half or 2 years doing that kind of thing.
That's a pretty long life cycle for a band.
Yeah, but you were playing with older guys who were actually getting you those gigs.
And, and all I had to do was just show up, sing, and play.
That's really
that was it, you know. So.
Rich?
When I was 15, my mother had purchased me a bass and a guitar. Or a bass guitar and an amp. I didn't know how to play. I was actually taking lessons from in school, you know, taking upright bass lessons to try to get the hang of it. And for somehow they caught wind that I had equipment, so they came knocking on my front door. 2 kids that lived a couple blocks away. I didn't know them at all. I don't know how they found out, but they were pretty much, you know, country southern, you know, like we played, you know, Leonard Skinner and David Bowie and Eric Clapton, you know. But it was a good learning experience for me, and I was in it for a while. I mean, they were pretty organized, and I struggled to keep up at first, but after a while, you know, I got a little more proficient, and then some other friends started to play. And
You're gonna tell me about the open jams, maybe. That was the or how to find people.
Yeah.
Because don't use your friends because they all are gonna suck and quit, and you're gonna be dragging them along.
You had the classic Ozzy Zig Seeks Gig thing.
Yeah.
Two guys you don't know show up on your door.
You play bass?
Yes.
You play bass, man? I was like, yeah, man.
It's not easy sometimes, depending on you know.
You're in.
The classic way to
No
meet
jailbreak.
to meet other players is to put up a posting in a music store.
I think the open jam way is because then you get to see them, they get to see you.
It's very hard to find open jams now.
Especially when you're 15 years old.
Yeah.
What I do is I go talk to bands that I like and ask them who they know.
Yeah.
I haven't had much luck with ads or open jams, and I hate open jams anyway.
They tend to be they tend to be very blues oriented, at least in Baltimore. But when I first moved there and didn't know a soul, that's how I got hooked up.
That's good if you can find them and if you can stomach doing nothing but blues constantly.
It's like most of the open jams are just, everybody just sits around and, you know, it's like, no, you know, I hate that.
Well, and half of them are guys that suck so bad that they can't be in a band anyway. The only chance they get to be on stage or to perform is for them to go to these things. And I know guys that have run them before, and they're just like.
But I mean, you know,
I think they're good. I think they're good. I just don't like them.
Find your local music store's bulletin board, and put up a piece of paper.
Guitar player available.
guitar player available. It's actually probably better.
Craigslist is really big now too.
Yeah, Craigslist is good. You're gonna kiss a lot of frogs before you find
Yes.
Yeah.
prince.
Be prepared for that.
You can't be afraid to get out and play with people. You've got to just say, you know, if I suck, I
Right,
suck.
you gotta put yourself out there.
If they suck, they suck. If I suck, I suck.
The marketplace will decide.
You're gonna waste time some nights, and other nights you may have an interesting experience, and some nights you may find somebody that you want to play with. But you will not know if you don't put yourself out there and try.
I used to make friends with a whole lot of bands, and it was like we've already been talking about, bands don't last. I mean, they just don't last very long, so they're always dropping people.
Yeah, you wait around long enough, and somebody good's looking
Yeah.
for somebody.
They don't last as long as an NFL running back.
You know, it'd be like I'd know
From Penn State.
people in half a dozen different bands, and within a few months I'd get to play with somebody because somebody was out and somebody else needed somebody to come in, and it gives you a chance to try with them, and if it doesn't gel, that's fine, but you keep finding these little open slots just by sort of being the fly on the wall, you know, waiting for whoever to get thrown out of this one or that one. You need somebody to come in. It's a strange way to do it, but it works. I've got to play with a lot of different bands that way just by hanging around so long, you know.
Network yourself, they call it now, right?
The other thing is this: is like
it works.
It's easy. It's in some ways it's easier to join a band than it is to start a band. It's a lot easier, but you will wait a lot longer to try and, you know, for your phone to ring. You'll do an awful lot of sitting around being passive and waiting for your phone to ring, which ultimately drove me crazy enough that made me want to start the thing on my own and find the people myself. But if you can just go and join a band, if you think you can fit in well, if you can play well enough to go in and get the gig, you know, go on auditions if you can find auditions, and you know, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, it depends what you're in it for. I mean, you may start out with one goal and objective. I mean, I did play for a brief cup of coffee. I did some top 40 just because I wanted to get out and gig, and I thought it would be something.
Top 40 is a very high-paying gig. There's no doubt about it.
It was not a very high-paying gig, but it wasn't as high, for example, as a wedding gig or a bar mitzvah gig or something like that. Those are high-paying gigs, and you basically are trading your soul for money. But
right, well, especially if you can.
I didn't actually do
I
a
didn't
cover
do
gig
that.
until I was like 33.
But you know,
So
bless me, Father, I have sinned. I have played Journey.
yeah, I've done it too.
Well, that's probably not as bad as doing.
I'm not proud of it particularly.
You know, I know guys that the one bass player guy learned how to do all like the Hebrew stuff and could sing for all the bar mitzvah
Well,
things.
you know, there are people who love that.
They were just
There
passionate.
are people who love the gig, and it's a certain kind of musician who loves that gig and loves, you know, and I don't mean musically, but they love being able to go and play for an afternoon and make a lot of money, and it doesn't bother them. Other people, it's just not in their nature to do that.
Well, to prostitute themselves, I guess.
If they consider
It's a little
that.
strong word.
Yeah. I mean, believe me. I mean, one of the guys that I play with now with Kevin, play drums with, he's had a top 40 band for years. His wife is the singer, and they played down at the beach at the shore.